Future Freight Festival in Chattanooga, Tennessee is the event of the fall. Subscribers to Check Call have a special discount code for F3 registration. This is going to be one of the best deals on F3 tickets. Use the code CheckCall F324 at checkout to take advantage of this offer. See you in Chattanooga. Welcome back to another edition of Check Call. Don't forget to subscribe to Check Call, the newsletter on FreightWaves.com if you haven't already. Today we welcome Peyton Riley, the CPO at GearTrack. Welcome to the show, Peyton.
Thank you, Mary. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited today because this is one of the things that I like to talk about. And this is kind of the land of you may have potentially onboarded or used too many vendors, and now everything is just worse and bad, which is my favorite thing to talk about because honestly, it happens. So before we get too far into that, though, let's get some background on you and kind of how you got started at GearTrack.
Yeah, sure. Well, my background is in engineering, and so I've always done wireless connectivity and connecting things to the internet. And that sort of naturally led me into the Internet of Things or IoT space. And as I did more of that, I got more interested in the end-to-end solution and connecting things to the internet and what we can do with that. And that led me into the world of product, and that brought me to GearTrack.
I like that. That is, I feel like engineering lends itself nicely to a lot of problem solving. And what is the entire logistics, supply chain, and transportation industry, if not just nothing but problem solving and the weird problems that you're like, I'm sorry, what?
Absolutely.
So getting into the nitty gritty of today. So there's two kind of main things, and that's going to be a single vendor solution or a multi-vendor solution. So single vendor makes a lot of sense. You have one person that solves all of your problems. It's great. But for those that have some more complex problems, they might have multi-vendors. Do you mind kind of breaking down what a multi-vendor solution pretty much commonly looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. When you have a multi-vendor solution, it means that you're going to multiple companies or partners or vendors to get different parts of a full solution. So you might be going to somewhere, so a provider for hardware. You might, need somebody to supply your hardware. You might go to a different company for your connectivity or your networks. You got to have the hardware talking to the cloud. So how do you get them online? Then there may be another partner for your software to aggregate all that data and synthesize it and turn it into something that's actually meaningful. You could have yet another partner or vendor to do analytics and turn all that into actionable insights and make business decisions. And so you could be dealing with, anywhere from 2 to 5 or more companies to sort of piece all this together to get to a solution that you can actually use in your business. And it's tempting to think of this as the best way to get the best of each piece, right? And I can certainly understand that logic, but what we've found at GearTrack is when you have that flexibility and get all the pieces from different places, the complexity and the overall cost tend to really outweigh the advantages there.
So I think that brings up something very interesting, and that is, it's something that we've talked about a lot, especially when we talk about, TMS integrations or, shopping for new software. And that is, what I do is so special and so unique that there's not a single solution out there that works for me. And I think that that's something that is kind of like a double-edged sword, if you will. So a lot of times that happens when people are, saying this is how it's always been done. We just need to keep doing it like this instead of maybe improving and finding some more efficient ways of working. But then also, the whole, well, this is how I do my business. I need something completely custom. It's really, I don't know, I kind of feel like how unique is your actual problems because there's a whole bunch of other companies out here doing the same thing and somehow they were still able to find something that works. So I think that a lot of that really comes down to, picking a good partner that will kind of say, take your hand, lead you along and say, you really don't need a diamond blinged out crystallized truck. You just need something that's going to work,
Absolutely. And one of the things that's attracted me to product and the way we do things at GearTrack is we see it as a partnership with our customers. We want to understand the problem And there may be something that's very unique, and we're flexible enough to address that. But we've also built a end-to-end solution with these specific problems in mind after providing solutions to many customers in the supply chain and logistics space. So we feel we have the right base product to solve 90+% of these major problems, but then we're flexible enough if there is some fine tuning that needs to happen. But what we find often is when we really get into the partnership with our customer and really understand their problem and really talk to the folks that are dealing with this friction on the ground, then we can really put something together that is a true business solution for them. And oftentimes, we like to think that is what GearTrack already is, and it doesn't take much customization beyond the base.
Have you guys seen any? This is me just being really curious and nosy. You don't have to answer. But have you guys seen any, like you've gone to maybe do like a prospect call with someone, you're figuring out what they currently have, seeing kind of how Gear Track would potentially be a fit. Have you guys seen any of those where maybe there's like 10 or 12 different vendors in there and you're like, whoa, but they even have some that are like repeating and are redundant. And I'm like, it's one of those where it's like, hey man, do you know that you're paying two people to do the same thing? Have you guys ever come across those?
Yeah, we have. I mean, we have gone in to consult and to offer our solutions, and we've seen all kinds of stuff. We've seen very manual processes, of course, that involve, various systems, but also people with clipboards taking notes and very manual processes. And we've also seen more of what you described, where there are many, many vendors or solutions or products integrated together that it can be the case where each one is underutilized and only one tiny piece of each one is used because it was seen as something very limited. And then it gets put together into really what I would consider an unmanageable combination of these different products. And frankly, what I tend to see when I see that level of combinations of different things is it becomes so cumbersome that sometimes it even gets set to the side. And, it's easy to revert back to those more manual processes if your solution is so cumbersome that it's more friction than what it's worth.
I have seen that firsthand. Of, hey, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be great. Okay, well, if I have to do steps A, B, C, and D, that's fine. But then we're gonna introduce something else, and then we're gonna introduce something else. And then suddenly nothing communicates, nothing talks to each other. You're copying and pasting the same notes in between three separate systems. And then inevitably you run out of time, so you don't get to all of them because, why would you sit there and focus on copying and pasting the same message into three separate systems that all report to three separate people. And really, it's just incredibly frustrating as an end user, and pretty much with someone who has no real voice or ability to say, "Hey, this is really horrible, and we should probably stop doing this because it's not working." Um, but yeah, I just like to think that everyone has a really great idea and then implement something. Or my favorite is we have the solution, but we got 80% of the way on the integration and then we just dropped it because it got too complicated or we ran out of resources or the person that was helping us at the other company left. And that is my absolute favorite is like you literally have, if you would have just gone all the way through the implementation with this one vendor, you would not have had to bring on the three others because they're doing everything that this one does that you're still paying for, but now you're paying more people.
Absolutely, and it happens all the time. And frankly, it's my opinion that we've seen this gradual adoption of the IoT, the Internet of Things. It's been this buzzword in the industry for like 20 years. It's at a very slow adoption. And I think it's because it can be very frictionful to use. And if it's partially integrated or a bunch of pieces put together in a way that isn't seamless, it's easy to abandon it because it's hard to use. And it can be hard to realize that ROI if the people that need the solution don't even want to use it. And there's nothing worse than having a 60, 80% solution that makes you feel like you're almost there, but then you got to do a bunch of manual work to really make it useful for your business. Then you really ask yourself, do I even need these pieces?
Yeah, I find that if more often than not, if it ends up with this brand new process, ends up with me updating something in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, that we have lost the plot and this has not been successful.
Hopefully, we're eliminating Excel and eliminating manual updates.
Peyton, you said it. You said it. Took the words right out of my mouth. It's 2024. Let's stop running our supply chains on Excel. And I will continue saying that. I said it in 2022. I said it in 2023. And I'm going to say it again in 2025. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Excel. It's a great tool. It's wonderful. However, it should not be running our supply chains.
Totally agree.
Um, So, what do you think is kind of driving some of these different businesses to go get all these different solutions? I know that there's been a lot of things that have come out that say, oh, shippers want 3PLs or freight brokers to have more technology, to have all of these different integrations, to have all these different sets of tools. And so, everyone, I think, is just kind of rushing out to find something that solves what that shipper is looking for instead of like maybe going back to someone that they're already working with and saying, hey, I think we can improve this here. What do you think is, yeah, so essentially, what do you think is driving these different carriers and vendors and businesses to go out and search out so many of these new solutions?
Yeah, I think it's because it's easy to think about a very large problem and maybe sort of mistake a very large or end-to-end need for something that seems acute in a very particular part of what could be a larger, more cohesive technology stack. For instance, you could say, I need more asset visibility in transit. Well, let's go get some asset trackers. And you might go and search for a company that makes hardware asset trackers. And you might think, well, if only we had one of these on each one of our pallets or whatever we're moving through the supply chain, then we'd have visibility. And that's one way to do it, right? And you could go focus and you could go do a bunch of research and find the best in breed, if you will, for a hardware manufacturer for this piece of hardware. And then you sort of feel like, okay, we've done this research and we know what we need. But what we like to do at GearTrack is take it a step back or look at it, the problem from a 30,000 foot view, so to speak, and we say, well, what truly is the problem? And I think the problem is more along the lines of we need more actionable, real-time visibility of our supply chain. We want to prevent theft. We want to do better inventory reconciliation, et cetera. And then when you take a step back and you work with an end-to-end supplier like us, we can look at all of your problems and offer a seamless solution that would come already with that best-in-breed hardware that we've pre-built and pre-integrated, but everything else is seamless. It's ready to use. You're not integrating it into other systems. You have a single interface to solve all of your problems.
So you mean to tell me that you guys are a technology company that actually gives a solution and maintains that solution? It's 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 it boggles the mind. I know that there's a lot of great technology providers out there. I have worked with some that have said, here you go, here's your system. See you later. And you're like, okay, cool. Well, like I'm having this problem. They're like, cool, submit a ticket. We'll get to you within a week. Cool. This is literally crippling my business. And they're like, well, see you in a week.
You know, one of the things that I like to talk about with GearTrack is our customer success team. And when we deliver a solution, it is delivered through dedicated customer success personnel. And so this isn't a 1-800 number where you call to ask about the hardware. This is a dedicated person, not a chat bot, but a dedicated person that you can call anytime and say, hey, something's not right. One of these assets isn't connected. Can you please help? And then you have an immediately mobilized team of support engineers to get you back on track.
Truly the ultimate goal of having actual support when you need it. And we love to see it. I do have a question though. So you guys come in and it will help people go from all of these different convoluted vendors to having one supplier or one typical vendor in this situation. Does that create, I don't say create problems, but does the business kind of lose some of that flexibility they might have had with those multiple vendors? Or is it one of those where as long as you are with a strong partner that is kind of as invested as you are, then it'll end up kind of being okay? There's might be some growing pains, as there is with anything.
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me just lay out briefly what some of these pieces might be that you would be sourcing individually. And then I'll talk about the trade off between flexibility and sort of a single solutions provider. And so we're talking hardware, firmware that drives the hardware, network connectivity, device management, software for your UI, database, backend software, analytics, AI, you name it. So many, many pieces. And again, I totally understand the mentality of there's we can go shop for the best provider of each one of those. That's really ultimate, flexibility. I can go buy whatever I want and they don't depend on each other. And so I could, potentially, kind of de-risk my own supply chain for my product in that way. And so there is more flexibility in that regard. What we've found and why we do things the way we do them at GearTrack is that flexibility is not worth the overall added cost in both dollars and productivity and usefulness and cohesiveness of the end solution. Um, when you bring it all together, everything is custom made to interface with the next layer. So at GearTrack, we've built the hardware, we've written the firmware, everything is in-house. We have every line of source code. We've built everything. And so we do have this base technology that works very well and is ready to deploy and is deployed now all over the world. We can make subtle changes to, as we talked about before, to solve these problems that might be a little more specific to a given use case. We do have that flexibility, but it's on a 95% functionality base that's already tried and true and has been deployed in the field, working cohesively across all layers of the stack for the past 5 years in very difficult, outdoor environments, difficult indoor environments, et cetera.
I kind of like that you guys have taken that approach. It really says like, it's kind of those where you recognize that yes, you could go out and get all of these different solutions. You could go out and get everything customized exactly to you. But then, we're back in that whole are you stuck in this like kind of endless circle of just always chasing after the best and greatest? Or are you actually working with something that is going to basically kind of come in and remove a lot of those headaches? Because I feel like if you are always chasing the latest and greatest, you're never able to really refine your process and get that efficiency that you really need. You're just out there constantly chasing the next coolest thing, which is great for those that are into that. But I feel like, you do lose some of that efficiency. You do lose some of that ability to just, do solid, consistent work by out there trying to integrate with some new system all the time. But that just might be me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we want this solution to drive your business, right? And so it's fun to go out and buy technology and integrate technology and, evaluate the latest and greatest. Um, all that's great. But at the end of the day, we want to provide solutions that are a pleasure to interact with, but really they're solving your problems and you're not having to think about them. We're removing all that friction.
All right. So I do have a question. You did mention that you've gone in and seen a bunch of inefficiencies and you guys have kind of come in and said, "Hey, we've got this. Don't worry about it." Have you guys like what happens after that? Like if you do you guys get the feedback of, "Oh my gosh, this has been so much more efficient, more user friendly, just better in every way, shape, and form." Do you guys kind of take that and then, hopefully first of all, do you get the feedback? And second of all, does that feedback make everything better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned our customer success team. They're constantly with the customer. It's a journey with the customer to make sure that they're successful, right? As the name of the team implies. But what I really like about what we do is, on the product side, on the engineering side, on the operations side, we're always going to the customer success team and letting that customer feedback be that feedback loop into everything we do, all the decisions that we make. So when we're, designing a new solution or improving a solution that exists, it's always always driven by, well, the customers that are using it, what are they saying? What are they using? What are they not using? What are they saying is hard? They love it, but it's hard to use. That is the constant feedback loop that goes back into prioritizing where we spend our time and how we use our technical resources to make the product better. So that any feedback we get from our customers, that is gold for us because we're here to build something that makes their lives easier.
That also has to be really nice, especially when you're out there kind of looking for new customers, because you can say, okay, well, what are your pain points with those, with your other providers? What are you having with, like, where do you wish things are improving? Because, like, we had customer A make a recommendation that this particular screen was too cumbersome or it wasn't quite right. And customer B agreed. And, we had it deployed in a month, which I know that that's probably really unlikely for a deployment to happen in a month. But in this very perfect example, it's done in a month. And I feel like that's kind of easy to say, we actually do listen to people, and all of these changes are driven by what people want. I do like that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that we like to do when we can, when it makes sense, is we like to have a prospective customer um, come out and see either a demo of our product or, perhaps if appropriate, see how it's operational at another one of our customers and see how it's being used day in and day out. And we can sort of say, here's the problem, here's the use case, here's how we iterated on our solution to make it what it is today.
I like that. Just you're not afraid to put your references out there, and I dig it. I feel like that's a really good indicator of, like, someone that's willing to stand behind their work and really be a partner. Um, Speaking of standing behind your work, you're gonna have to stand behind your defense now. As Peyton, there's a question that everybody comes on the show has to answer, and you, sir, are going to be no exception. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Well, so I will say this: I'm a sandwich guy. I eat a sandwich every chance I can get, and so I love a good sandwich. But for me, a hot dog is its own thing. I don't think it's a sandwich. When I think of a hot dog, I think of the 4th of July. I think about baseball. I think about grilling out, camping out, all that good stuff. So for me, a hot dog is its very own food group.
This this makes me so happy. Peyton, you are a fantastic guest with the right opinion. I am also of the mentality of a hot dog's not a sandwich, because I'm also a sandwich girly. Like, I am a deli sandwich, I will try them all in the city of St. Louis. I have tried a fair amount of them. Anyway, but my main thing is, if you go into a deli, you're not going to see a hot dog on the menu. They're only going to have sandwiches.
That's right. That's a good
So,
point.
okay, Peyton, if anyone has questions on your hot dog stances or any kind of IoT things, where can they find you outside the show?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk hot dogs or IoT things. And you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Peyton Riley. I'm on LinkedIn, also under GearTrack. Or you can email me directly, peyton@geartrack.io. And that's Peyton, Peyton.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mary. I enjoyed it.
You can find Check Call the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcast and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/checkcall, and see you on the internet.